Live from remote studios in Orlando, Florida, this is Masters of Money. Episode 12, Earning More Money by Committing to the Work with Patrice Washington.
And I turned all of Susie Orman's books around. And I'm like, if this lady can do this, I can do this because I want to help people. And I taped it in my journal and I wrote, I will bless lives through personal finance. And I will be able to walk in Barnes & Noble one day and see my work on the shelf and know that someone's life is better.
My name is Philip Taylor, but you can call me PT. I'm a CPA who started a personal finance website back in 2007 and have been writing, talking, and learning about money ever since. My goal with this show is to help you improve your financial life by bringing you deep, revealing conversations around the taboo topic of money with my money nerd friends who aren't afraid to share. All right, let's meet today's master of money. Patrice C. Washington has been making money educational yet fun since 2003. She's a nationally recognized best-selling author of the Real Money Answers financial series. She's a featured columnist, television commentator, transformational speaker, spokesperson, radio host, and leading authority on personal finance, entrepreneurship, and success for women and youth. Patrice's wisdom on money matters has been featured as a recurring voice by national brands such as NBC, Black Enterprise, The Huffington Post, Upscale Magazine, and most recently as the personal finance voice of the top-rated and nationally syndicated Steve Harvey morning radio show, where she hosts her own weekly segment, Real Money Answers with Patrice Washington. In this episode, we'll get to hear how Patrice got her start as an entrepreneur, how much she made as an entrepreneur in her 20s, the inspiration for her personal finance blog, and how she got the regular gig with Steve Harvey. I know you'll love hearing her impressive story. Let's dig in. Let's meet today's Master of Money. Patrice, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, PT. I'm so excited.
Oh, so good to have you on. And I'm anxious to hear more about your story. My first question is this. What's the one thing that you do that you feel has had the biggest impact on your financial success so far?
I think the one thing that I do maybe differently than other people who are in this space is I don't necessarily focus as much on saving, which I know is like, oh, so taboo. But I don't focus as much on saving as most people. I really focus on earning more money because I've always felt like the money I could save if I were to cut cable or cut this cost or cut this expense, like there's only so much because there's someone else in control. But my earning potential, I feel like I'm more in control. And to me, that's limitless. Like there's no limit to what I could do or what I could put out there or what I could create. So I like to save. I'm not opposed to coupon cutters, but I feel like if I spend all my time cutting coupons and save $50 at the grocery store, I could have put the same time into earning another $500. So I think that's one thing for sure.
Yeah, I like that. Have you always had that mentality?
Yeah, I think mostly because my mom used to drive me crazy back in the day, taking me shopping. So this is before cell phones and apps to compare prices at stores and stuff. And she would drive from like J.C. Penney to Montgomery Ward to all the department stores only to come back to the first one. And that was her ideal of like saving money. And I'm like, we wasted time, we wasted gas. And I was a little kid and I was like, this makes no sense.
That's hilarious.
Could have done something else. So I have always kind of been that way in a sense.
Yeah. I remember some of those trips with mom. Back when there was no cell phone or nothing to keep you busy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. So were there early entrepreneurial endeavors for you early on? Or when did you kind of start, kind of bringing in some cash flow yourself?
Dude, people never believe me when I tell them this. I wish my mom was here to co-sign. 3rd grade.
Really?
3rd grade. I will never forget my elementary school. A kid got hit by a car trying to cross the street to get to the ice cream truck.
Oh, gosh.
And they made the ice cream truck move off of the entire block so that kids wouldn't be running across the street or trying to go down the street away from the school to buy candy or chips or whatever. And I had birthday money and I asked my mom to take me to Smart and Final to buy candy. And I became like the after school candy lady. And I would go to school with like blow pops and Tootsie Rolls and stuff all in my backpack and sell after when I was in 3rd grade, slanging to the 2nd graders and 1st graders.
That's hilarious.
And there was no alternative. So I made all the money.
That's great. That's cool. So you saw the opportunity and you took advantage.
And I took advantage, and I was doing that every other year since third grade. Every time there was something that was cool that I felt like I could make at home. I don't know if you remember the bandanas with the jewels on them back in the day. I don't know. That might have been an LA thing. But there were these scarves that girls used to like to wear. TLC, the R&B group, made them popular. Sixth grade, I was like, I could do that. I have a bedazzle machine. And I started to make scarves and sell them at school. So I've always been into figuring out a way to make money.
Yeah.
It's just in me.
That's cool. That's cool. So just a quick side note, are you naturally like a spender or a saver? Like just naturally, like does money kind of flow out or?
No, I'm naturally a saver.
You are naturally a saver. So that part of it kind of comes natural. Like even though you've earned it, doesn't necessarily mean you're just going to go run and spend it right away. You're naturally, you're more interested in the earning part. So maybe you don't give yourself time to spend.
Yeah, it's the challenge. It's the challenge of the earning and figuring out something new. And that always kind of preoccupies me. So I'm not like a window shopper. I don't surf on the net. I only go somewhere with a purpose and a plan. Mm-hmm. I don't go just to walk around or just to look around. And I think that comes from knowing a little bit about like what my purpose is. Like, I always kind of have something I'm working towards. And for me, I feel like that helps me set my priorities. Yeah. So just, sticking to that keeps me out of stores and all that. But my husband, on the other hand, he always married the opposite, I think. My husband is the spender, so I have to reel him in. I'm not going to lie. But he also teaches me how to live a little. So it's a good balance.
Yeah. Yeah. Teresa and I have that same thing. I'm actually the spender. And so I push her. She does a good job of making sure we keep most of it. But yeah, I push the envelope. Well, that's cool. And maybe we can talk more about the relationship thing in a bit. I want to stick to you and sort of those early entrepreneur ideas. Did you have businesses through college, or were you working through college? And maybe talk us through some of your early, like real-time businesses, I guess, adult businesses.
Well, when I was 19 years old, I was introduced to the wonderful world of real estate by a family member. And I'm going to keep it real, PT. I was like, if she can do this, I definitely can. Like, I just didn't feel like she was particularly smart, I guess. And I was a sophomore at USC in Los Angeles, and she introduced me to real estate, and I loved it instantly. I liked the interacting with people. I liked making, figuring out the challenge of things coming together. And I really worked more on the loan side. So loan packaging was fascinating to me. I got my real estate salesperson's license at 19. And then during my senior year, I went after my brokers and got my broker's license, first time taking the test, straight out the bat. And I started a business during senior year in college. So I was a business major. I emphasized in entrepreneurial studies. Like, that's no surprise, right? I emphasized in entrepreneurial studies, and I remember sharing that I was going after my brokers and doing all this in a paper I was writing, and we were working on a project, and for me, it was a real estate and mortgage company. And my professor at the time didn't give me a good grade on that. He said I was being unrealistic because my plans didn't include working somewhere for 5 years or 7 years or 10 years before starting the business. And I was used to being a really good student, like 3.8 GPA, 3.6, and he gave me this bad grade. And I was like, what the heck? Like, I am determined to prove him wrong. And that was first semester, senior year. And second semester, I went through with getting my broker's license. I started to sign up with different mortgage companies. And I started I started in my apartment, but I really used one of the offices on campus. I used their fax machine. I used their paper. I used their work study students to my advantage. And they were like my first employees. I used to have them doing all kind of paperwork and faxing and copying for me. And I started my senior year. So when I left USC, I didn't apply for a job and I didn't apply for grad school. I was determined to see it through and prove my professor wrong. And we did.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Man, I just have to back up some more. Like, your story is very unique. I've interviewed several people now on the podcast, and you're very entrepreneurially driven early on. I mean, interaction with the family member in real estate, anybody else in your family that were just inspiring you and or kind of giving you permission to take this entrepreneurial route versus the what 99% of everything else in life sort of directs you at, which is sort of a more traditional educate. I mean, you did go to college, I guess, but
yeah.
I don't know. Just you seem very bent toward entrepreneurship. Like what was influencing you early on?
First, my dad was an entrepreneur.
Okay.
I'm Belizean and Jamaican, and my dad owned a Belizean nightclub in Los Angeles that was pretty successful for many years. And I remember just having, I didn't grow up with my dad in the home, but I remember having basketball games or volleyball games or spelling bees or debates or whatever. And my dad could always attend. And my mom worked full time, 20 miles outside the city and where we lived, and she could never come to anything. And I remember being in like 6th or 7th grade and asking my dad, like, do you really work? Like, do you have a job? Because he was always more available. And I'm like, that's so odd. Like, why doesn't he go to work, but he has money? And he's like, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. And that was the first time I had ever heard that term. And I was like, whatever that is, I want to be that. And I just made up in my mind, literally in that moment, I was like, I want to be that, because as someone who always wanted to be a mother, I just wanted to be in control one day of my time. And, love my mom so much. She continues to work pretty hard. She's just now getting ready to retire, but she missed out on so much of my life because of having to work in that type of setting and doing what she had to do. And I was just determined, PT, that I just did not want to raise children